Hey, Kathy.
Hey, Brenda.
We finally did it. We just decided to hit record because we have these conversations that we want to record for the podcast, and it's hard to find time to schedule and all of that.
Yeah,
So
it really is.
here we are.
Especially
But
now that we're on YouTube
I
because,
know we're on the YouTube.
we're the Skypey, the YouTube.
Yeah.
It is.
But I wanted to just get your thoughts on something because I heard there's a book called there is a book called Never Split the Difference,
Okay.
and it's authored by a guy named Chris Voss. And he was a um, like hostage negotiator for the
Oh,
FBI.
wow. Wow. Okay.
And so obviously he learned how to negotiate very well. So then he went on to write this book, and it's meant more for business people,
Okay.
who are negotiating deals and all of that. And I force myself to listen to podcasts that have nothing to do with mental health and addiction and all of that stuff just to like clear my brain. So I'm listening to this podcast with this guy, Chris Voss, who wrote this book on negotiation. And it was just fascinating to hear all of this. And what I started realizing is, oh my gosh, all we're doing with our kids is negotiating.
I had a feeling you were going to go there. It is so true.
It's just
We should be
negotiation.
I mean, maybe that's why we're not millionaires because
Like,
I was not a good negotiator. I will say that
no, me
in the
either.
thick of it. I really wasn't.
But so that was one realization that I think
Okay.
we could talk about. But also, he snuck in something that I thought was very smart. And he talked about um, tactical empathy. And I thought, what the heck? I actually like
Yeah.
rewound my
Yeah.
little podcast machine. I was like, wait a minute, what did he just say? And the host was like, they were talking about this tactical empathy. And what he said is, well, when you're talking to, like, he would then go out and train other FBI hostage
Okay.
negotiators. Okay. And what he realized is that empathy was the number one most important, you know, tool or
Wow. Yeah.
because he had you as the negotiator, you have to be able to understand where they are, like not put
Right.
yourself in their position, but you have to
Yeah. Yeah.
understand where they are and be able to relate to them where they are. And he said the reason we call it tactical empathy is because these dudes who are FBI hostage negotiators, they don't want to hear about empathy.
That's so
They're
true.
like,
I can
that's
see
for
that.
sissies, right?
Yeah.
And I thought,
Yeah.
you know me, my mind is just blown. I'm driving and I'm like madly trying to take notes because I'm like, that's what we're doing. We're negotiating. And we know there's a lot of parents who are like, I don't want to deal with all this squishy, soft, crafty
That's right.
invitation to change stuff. I just want like my kid just needs to get their act together. And I
Boy.
thought,
Yeah.
we need to start talking about like tactical
Yeah.
empathy, tactical negotiation. It's, my son does mentoring and he's like, Mama, all it is sales. I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm in sales. I am just trying to sell you a different version of the life that you are living right now.
It's really true. I mean, all of this, because, as humans, we just want to be heard, right? And I get it. Those bad guys that are holding people hostage. I mean, but if you're really trying to communicate with someone and they don't feel like they're being heard, what do? Right?
Yeah.
Ears off. They don't want to hear. They don't want to listen to you because
Oh,
they're already going to that space where you don't get what I'm trying to say, right? And oh my gosh, this is great. It's really getting to that part of how can we get to that level where we just really need to be quiet ourselves and ask, what is it that my child really needs right now? What is it that my child, where is he coming from that he's acting
Yeah.
this way, that he's picking substances or whatever that is, right?
Yes. I mean,
Love
it
that.
just I don't know why,
Love that.
and it's funny, like, listening to this guy, his voice is like he's, like, got this hardcore New York kind of Boston accent, he sounds
Uh-huh.
like a hostage negotiator, right? And I'm just listening to him talk about this, and I was like it just dawned on me that we really are, we just have to be able to, and I actually had a podcast interview with a guest yesterday, that we were talking about how you have to be able to separate a little bit and not take everything so
Mm,
personally. And I was thinking about this hostage negotiations setup kind of situation and thinking, the negotiator so isn't thinking, well, you're doing this to hurt me. They're
right,
like, "You're doing this for some reason, and I need to understand what that reason is so then I can help you try to make a different decision." But I'm not taking it personally. And I thought that that was also really helpful to think if as parents, my kid is not doing this to me because it is so hard when they're saying things and you feel like you're being disrespected and you feel like, wait a minute, you can't say that to me, right? Or you can't do
right,
that. You're breaking the rules. It's just it hits at a different level as a parent. So I think maybe if we can imagine ourselves as that hostage negotiator, it's not it's not me, but I need to start to understand your motives. I need to understand what you're afraid of. I need to understand why do you think this is a good decision to do what you're doing? Because only then can I start to come at this in a way that will make sense to you. Otherwise, we're
right,
speaking two different languages, you
right.
know?
Oh, I love all that. And as you're speaking, I'm thinking, oh, that's that tool. That's that tool. That's, all the things that we teach, right? In the
Yes.
stream. But I really, really love all of that because you're right. I mean, it's really tough when you are in it. There's a lot of like this storm you're in, right? And kind of not taking things personally and also this is also something we teach too, when to know when it's safe or not to proceed, right? When to use the pause button here. But,
Yes.
and I am getting ahead of ourselves right here, but those are all because I know that some of you may be asking, well, hold on, he's yelling at me, I feel afraid or whatever.
Right.
We
Right.
do teach ways to and basically that is just to stop engaging right there.
Yeah.
But the topic of this that we're really trying to talk about is how do we get at a deeper level to really understand from our kids and asking them, like you said, tell me what it is you need, so that we can get to that level of compassion and understanding.
Yeah, that's really true. It takes a lot of intention
Mm.
and, that self-preservation to be able to put yourself in a mindset where you could try to separate the Velcro a little bit and be really curious.
That's right.
And I just think maybe thinking about it from the perspective of this tactical empathy, like this, if you are having a hard time with what might feel like these kind of softer approaches, I would say let's think about it as a strategic negotiation. Like, let's say you work for a Fortune 500 company and you are going in to negotiate a deal.
Hmm.
You're not just going to walk in there unprepared. You're going to probably read this guy's book, right? You're going to take a course.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like your company is going to train you in how to make sales deals. And so I think that we need to sometimes look at this with our kids as I need to be very strategic here and I need to get some training because I haven't been trained. Like I'm not in sale. Like my husband does these huge $500 million deals with these huge
Right.
Fortune 100 companies and I don't even get it. So if I was going to have to try to do that, I would need to get some training.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So instead of, I think because it's parenting and because it's our kids and because it's so personal and emotional and scary, we forget that we're just teaching you, and I'm talking about Hope Stream now, we are just teaching you like sales strategies, negotiation strategies. Like, how do you communicate? If I'm going to walk in and try to sell $500 million worth of something to Starbucks, I got to know the right approach for it. I can't
That's
use
right.
the same communication skills that I use with my husband or my parents, right? It's like,
Well, and I love all that. And I think, I'm wondering too, because I know I was in this a little bit is, well, I know my kid. I don't need to know more. I know my kid. But I will say over this journey that we've had, you and I together with our own kids, like, really, how much do you really know your child? Because I do think, yes, we knew our kids a lot when they were babies and toddlers, but really they do grow up to be their own folks with, you know, how they look at the world and how they see things. And by the way, lots of hidden trauma that we may not know about. And so
yes,
it's really important. They may not even know about it. So it is
yeah,
so, so important. You are right to actually do your homework, prepare as much as you can, learn a little bit about motivational interviewing so you could actually ask the right questions so you know how you can get to that level. And I just think that I just love this so much because I feel like when you really do address the needs of that person that you love and try to figure out where they're coming from. I mean, at least try. That makes such a difference. I know I will raise my hand. I'm not the first person not to ever have a fight with my husband. We do have fights, and I know I feel so much better if I can't communicate what I need, that he takes the time to really sit down and we talk. And sometimes I find out something new about what we were arguing about but it feels so
yeah,
great because I feel like, wow, he actually cared enough to really get quiet and figure out what it is that I need and ask me the questions that, to find out. So anyway, love, love, love this.
yeah.
Tactical, say that again.
Tactical empathy is,
Tactical
but I think
empathy.
we can approach all of it as being tactical and
Yeah.
strategic
Yeah.
versus soft and squishy and emotional and like, because it does get to a point where you're like, something has got to change, right?
Mhm.
You get to a point where, like somebody asked me, I'm going to be on somebody's podcast, and one of the questions, they send questions ahead of time.
Mhm.
And one of the questions was, like, what caused the change in you? Or what caused like a
Yeah.
turn in your relationship with your child? And for me, it was my therapist looking at me sitting on her couch every week, hysterically crying. I was just such a mess. And she's like, Brenda, like, help me understand what is this kind of like despair that you're in? And I just said, I just don't have a plan. Like, I don't know what to do, and I can't go on like this anymore. It had just gotten to a point where things were so chaotic and so bad that I was losing it. And she was like, well, then let's create a plan. And she helped me create a plan of what I was going to do. And it was very craft based. I won't go into it now, but um, I think it does get to a point where something has to change. Maybe you've heard about some of these tools and some of these strategies, but you're just like, gosh, that just sounds so, I don't know, like, is that really going to work? Is it
It
really
almost
going to
sounds
work?
it almost sounds too easy to work.
Yes.
Am
And
I right? It's
it is
just
not easy, but it is simple. Like, you don't need a
simple steps.
degree in anything. You don't need any certification. Like, you can learn these skills. They are highly strategic. I mean, this is a funny side note, but I had to bring something up with my husband this week. And I was like, how come I keep avoiding this conversation? And then I realized I'm not using my tools. So I created a surf statement, which if you don't know what a surf statement is,
I
just
love
search
it.
the podcast because we talk about it all the time. And it made me feel so much better because I knew how to put things together in a way that was going to work for me and for him. And it
Right.
did feel very strategic. And I was like, okay, I'm not just barreling into this hoping that this conversation is going to go well. I've crafted it. I've put it together. And I felt a little guilty, like he doesn't know that I'm doing this. Like he doesn't know
He
that
will now.
well, if you listen to podcasts, he will. Um, but I felt like
Right.
it felt really good. I was like, he has no idea that I am using a proven
Yeah.
system and framework to put together this request that I am going to make of him to where I know it's going to go well. And it did
Yeah.
because I took a few minutes to put that together. So, yeah, I think if we think of these strategies and tactics, not to make it impersonal and not to make it, some sort of like maneuver, but just a way to look at a very difficult situation with your kid, almost like you would go into a very difficult negotiation at work, prepared and trained.
Absolutely. You're just doing your homework. You're doing your homework. And
Absolutely. You
you
wouldn't
know,
wing
you
it.
will see results if you put a little bit of time into it. And so, gosh, I just love that.
Yeah.
Love
So
that you
that
brought up that book. That's great.
right? Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss.
Never split the difference.
Yeah,
Okay.
I downloaded it, so I'm listening to it. So very, very helpful, not just if you're an FBI negotiator. Very helpful in all aspects of
I
life.
hope I never need one. I'll just tell you that right now. But it is fascinating. I have my love of true crime and everything else. So I'm gonna definitely check that one out.
Absolutely. Okay, talk to you later.
Talk to you soon.